Welcome. My name is Don Davis. I'm the editor-in-chief at Internet Retailer, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. We'll be talking about how retailers can restore consumers' confidence in shopping online. Confidence has been seriously shaken by a long string of thefts of customer data. Our speaker will be Shane Lundy, Strategic Security Advisor at Symantec Corporation, the Internet security company. After Shane speaks, we'll take your questions. You can ask questions anytime using the chat box on your screen. And next day or two, you all get an email with a link to today's presentation and also information about how to access a two-page data sheet that summarizes the points Shane's going to make. They'll be easy to distribute to all the participants in the decision-making process regarding security. Before Shane begins, I'd like to show you a few slides that illustrate the problem online retailers and brands face today. The chart on the left shows a number of reported data breaches in the United States in the past few years, and this is actually in the news today because the U.S. House of Representatives just yesterday passed a bill that would make it easier for companies to report information about data breaches to the government without fear of being sued, in the hope that the more information that companies do disclose to the government, the easier it will be to figure out what's going on. But what we've seen is that criminals have broken into the networks of healthcare organizations, retailers, financial institutions, and other organizations. And they have been getting away with sensitive personal information that can enable them to commit fraud or set up phony accounts in the name of legitimate consumer. And that includes Social Security numbers and credit card numbers. As a result, consumers are worried about just about everything they do online. They don't think posting to online social networks is very secure, as this Pew Research Center survey shows, nor are they all that confident about the safety of their email. And they're really not confident about shopping. It's interesting, this survey, which was conducted last fall, shows consumers are even more worried about the security of their credit and debit card information in physical stores than they are at online websites. That shows they have been paying attention to the news reports about the big retail data breaches, which mostly have begun with criminals hacking into store computer networks and then working their way back into corporate databases that hold consumer payment card data. And here's data from a survey conducted in January that shows much the same thing. Consumers basically don't think any kind of retailer is doing a good enough job of protecting their payment card and personal data. 62% say physical stores aren't doing enough, 60% online retailers, and 65% mobile retail sites. While many of the people who responded said they felt this way because of news reports about data breaches, 17% said it was because their own data was stolen. And that just happened to my wife in the past month, so I can totally relate to how they feel. So the question is, what should online retail do about all this? Providing answers to that question will be Shane Lundy, Strategic Security Advisor at Symantec. Remember, after Shane speaks, we'll take your questions. You can ask questions at any time using the chat box on your screen, and you all get an email in the next day or two with a link to the presentation and information about how to get this two-page summary of Shane's remarks. So with that, I will turn the mic over to Shane Lundy of Symantec.
Hey, Don, thanks so much for the great introduction. And you know, as shown by the data, you know, there's clearly a lot of buyer anxiety when shopping online. And to kind of help frame this up, you know, Symantec has become synonymous with trust and security, and the way that they've entered the market is really by providing a phenomenal security layer underneath a suite of SSL brands. But what we realized is that consumer concerns are continuing to grow, and this is why we've innovated the next generation offering. And that offering today that we're going to really be talking about is the Norton Shopping Guarantee. And so just at a high level, before we dive into some of the data, wanted to give you a quick overview of what this solution is all about and what the benefits are by really addressing buyer concerns. It's a new service, and it's really focused on increasing website conversion and customer happiness by addressing buyer anxiety. And it's really focused on those primary concerns that I think most of you have probably experienced, especially when shopping at a site online. And So just want to tee up a little bit for you that about midway through the presentation, we're going to have a survey that we'd love to get everybody's feedback and to really zero in on what everybody's concerns are here, because I think we'll all relate that this is something that is very pervasive across the internet for all buyers. And so as we talked about, when you reduce those buyers' concerns, you're just more likely to convert those shoppers into buyers. And one thing that we hear a lot is, the technology at times can be very difficult, very risky to install inside these complex infrastructures. And so we've really made it easy to install. We make it free to test. And during that test, we're going to provide some great qualitative data, as well as where the rubber really hits the road is what's the quantitative impact on the business by taking advantage of this new offering. And our focus here is, it's a pay-for-performance model. If the solution is not working for you, then we don't want you to pay for it. But good news is we've had a lot of success, and we're going to get into some of those quantified impacts here shortly. So how has buyer behavior changed? I think many of you remember back in the day when price seemed to be the only consideration when shopping online, and that's where comparison shopping engines were born. But very quickly, consumers realized that you kind of get what you pay for, and that now price is no longer the primary concern when really making a decision about who they're going to buy from. And what this slide is really showing is that on average, the consumer has got a browser open, and they might have multiple browsers, but in general, there's 4 different sites that they are reviewing at the same time that all have the same product. And they're going through this process of elimination and trying to make a decision about, which site do they feel. And whenever I say feel, it's an important thing to distinguish. There's a difference between feeling and thinking. And we're going to dive a little bit into those 2 types of ways that people think, whether it's kind of the emotional buyer or if it's the thinking buyer. But again, so they're going through this process of elimination and trying to make a decision about which site makes them feel the best so that they're going to move forward and make this purchase. And so the reason that this process is happening is it really goes all the way back to human nature. And the thing that we talked about, which is you've got this emotional buyer and you have the thinking buyer. Unfortunately, the emotional buyer is the one that always wins. And the way that that emotional buyer focuses their attention, it's all about avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. And so the way that, as a child we would avoid pain is simply crying our brains out. And then hopefully our parents would figure out what was going to make us happy, and then all of a sudden we'd reward them with a smile when we did. But the way consumers are avoiding pain when shopping online is they're abandoning the site. And when you think about the average abandonment rate, which is 98% of all consumers that visit a site ultimately leave, there's a significant percentage of those that were ready to buy, but they ended up making a purchase somewhere else. And so what we're trying to get into here is helping online retailers understand how best to survive that human comparison shopping engine so that they're more likely to make a purchase from you as opposed to your competitor or going to a place that really built their company on the foundation of security and trust from its beginning, which is Amazon. And that's a really important distinction to make there, that at its foundation, that was one of the things Amazon really knew was important, that when you have buyers that don't know the seller and sellers that don't know the buyer, they really needed that trusted third party to step in and make sure that everything was going to go great and that it was going to be a pleasurable experience as opposed to something that was going to lead to pain. So what are these concerns? At the top of the list, as Don framed up before, the data speaks for itself. Consumers are, and it continues to grow, really concerned about information security. And it's going even beyond, are you doing everything to protect my information, but what are you going to do in the event that something goes wrong with the information that you're storing on my behalf? The second concern consumers are still focused on is that, is this merchant going to be reliable? Are the products that they're shipping going to be authentic? Will they arrive on time? If there's a problem, what's this merchant going to do to make me whole? And even today, consumers are concerned that if they land on a website, are they really on that website, or is this website being spoofed and potentially placing an order on a site whose intention is to steal my personal information? I'm not going to read all the stats here, but they're very interesting stats that we'll make sure and include in that data sheet that comes out to you so you can take a deeper dive into these. The third concern is price. Of course, it continues to be a concern of buyers. With the internet being the world's largest shopping mall, hundreds of brands at times often selling the same product, price is a consideration. But as stated before, it's not as much of a consideration because consumers understand that online retail can really be convenient, and there is opportunity cost to get in your car and go to the local shopping center. So consumers today, when they're making a decision about making a purchase online versus going to the store, they're starting to take that into consideration when they look at the price, which is great news for online retailers. That's a cool tipping point. And then lastly, consumers are really concerned about what is the return policy. These two stats I will read to you because these are fairly new research projects that came out from UPS, which is that 66% of shoppers will read the return policy before buying from a merchant from the first time. So for all you merchants out there who are making your return policy difficult to find, if you take one thing away from this meeting, whether you buy anything from Symantec or not, make sure you expose your return policy, and to the extent that you can justify it, make sure you pay for the return shipping if they don't like your product, because 80% of consumers, if you make them pay for that return, they're never shopping with you again. It's a real important takeaway there. So now is the time we're going to take a quick poll, and what you're going to notice is you've got 4 choices here. And so as you're thinking about the things that are really concerning to you, and let's make this real personal. So when you're shopping online, and especially on a site you've never visited before, what are those concerns that you have? Or if you're an online retailer and you don't do a lot of shopping yourself, what do you think the concerns are that your shoppers have? So you can look at it through both of those lenses. So the first one, when we talk about information security, the consumers are just wondering, again, what is this merchant doing to keep my information safe and secure? And if something goes wrong with that information, what are they doing to make me whole? Are you concerned about merchant reliability? Things such as, is that product going to be authentic? Is it going to be delivered on time? Are they going to provide great customer service if something goes wrong? About price, what happens if you make a purchase and that merchant lowers the price? Are you concerned about that? And then lastly, are you most concerned about the return policy? And so you don't have to choose one of 4. You can actually select all that apply. I know for me, I'm a little bit more of a reckless buyer, but my wife, those first 2 are most important, and she'll be willing to pay a premium if she feels really secure about the number 1, 2, and 4. But I know some shoppers out there, price is the most important. So let's really think about this, from kind of your own personal point of view, and we'd love to hear your feedback related to these 4 very specific areas that we've been able to quantify are important to all buyers, but we'd love to get a sense of what this audience here is really concerned about. So we'll give you a couple more seconds here to get your answers in, and it looks like we've already got we've already got a bunch of responses here. I'll read these back to you. This is fascinating, and in this survey we've got, I'm not sure if we've achieved statistical confidence yet, but this is still quite interesting results here. So information security. Well, actually, I'll lead off with the top winner. Merchant reliability came in at 81% of you. Have signaled that this is a concern. 70% identified that information security is a concern. Then next would be a return policy at 59%. And I'm not surprised to see that price is finishing up last at 44%. Still a lot of you are concerned about it, but this really helps. If this survey would have been given about 10 years ago, I think price would have been right at the forefront. But as consumers have come to know the risk related to shopping, not a surprise to see these numbers have flipped over the years. So again, thank you everybody for participating in the poll. What I'd like to do is just go ahead and move forward with the rest of the presentation here. Okay. And my apologies, I've got a little bit of a screen lock here. All right, so one of the things that's really important to do is to really go back in time and think about the origin of trust marks or major brands that were basically renting their brand to merchants to help build consumer confidence. And for more than a century, the Better Business Bureau has been providing this service. And that was really, of course, all about, how do you make a consumer who comes into your storefront feel really safe about buying from you as a merchant. 100 years ago, information security was not a concern about, one person giving their credit card and then all of a sudden having it in the hands of thousands. So the concerns a century ago are different than, of course, the concerns of today. But this is just demonstrating that major brands have been using third parties to help build consumer confidence for over a century. And so if you think about Symantec, Symantec has really been doing this for almost 15 years and really helping consumers feel safe and confident when transacting with their bank online, providing health information, financial information, and then more notably, especially as of late, with Symantec's focus on helping online retailers really address this consumer confidence issue. Symantec is really leading the way in helping online retailers leverage a third party to really build that consumer confidence and then go beyond just a signal, but actually provide technology solutions that actually make it a safer place to shop. And then going beyond that, which is what we're about to dive into, is that if you're going to the site, but we're going beyond that now, and we're actually going to be guaranteeing the performance of those online retailers from both a security perspective, from a pricing perspective, as well as just from a merchant performance perspective. And that's why we're really excited to present the solution here today. And so when you think about consumers and why this is important, everybody manages risk through two vehicles. And Symantec, as framed up in that previous slide, we've been the leader in preventing bad things from happening online, but it really needs to go beyond prevention, and it's about resolution. So if you kind of put this into your own lives, for those of you who have kids that are old enough to drive, the prevention mechanism is that you run them through driver's ed, you get them a car that's got airbags, you teach them how to put their seatbelt on, but at the end of the day, they never leave the driveway unless they have insurance in place, because bad things do happen. And so managing that risk through prevention and resolution is really, really important. So as stated, Symantec being the leader in preventative solutions, there's also been companies out there for a while, as stated, the Better Business Bureau, and then even new entrants into the market trying to signal that merchants are reliable, things such as BizRate or Stella Service or even Google Trusted Stores, is trying to signal that, hey, we've looked at this company and they're a good company and you can do business with them. But prior to the Norton Shopping Guarantee, if you wanted to have a guaranteed shopping experience, that guarantee is provided by a trusted third party, you really had to go to the marketplaces such as eBay and Amazon. And this is really the foundation of how they built their business. And so the whole reason for bringing out the Norton Shopping Guarantee is so that online retailers are really able to unify their prevention and resolution solutions underneath the most trusted brand on the internet and unify that underneath the Norton secured, and guaranteed shopping programs. So the way that we build that consumer confidence and the way that we address these concerns is we have a suite of benefits that map right to those primary concerns. So for all participating merchants, if you decide to become a Norton Shopping Guarantee customer, when your customer buys from you, one of the benefits that they get is blanket identity theft protection for the next 30 days. Think about that for a second. For a consumer to get blanket identity theft protection, they're going to need to spend around $30 a month with companies like SiteLock. But because you are really concerned and you're providing these benefits to your consumers, they get that for free by simply buying from you. And we go very far in making sure that consumers get the benefit here and the full benefit, because it's not an easy thing. I know, Don, you had mentioned on the front of this call that your wife had an issue related to your information being breached, and it is quite a process to recover your credit, your identity, and to get financial reimbursement. So Symantec will basically take care of that process for you, and your consumers are going to love you for that benefit. The second benefit is a $1,000 purchase guarantee. Now, you know, as well as we know, that you're going to be a trusted, great merchant, and you're going to provide great service. But your first-time buyers, those that are visiting your site now, and that may have just already bounced, but those that are visiting your site now don't necessarily know that about you as a merchant. So having Symantec stand up and say, hey, we're going to guarantee that this merchant will perform. If not, we're going to make that consumer whole. And we can work it out politely behind the scenes with our customers at Norton Shopping Guarantee. The third benefit is a same-store low-price guarantee. We often hear, wow, we're surprised that Symantec is actually doing this. But again, we're really zeroing in on anything that creates buyer anxiety. We know that we can wrap a benefit and associate the most trusted brand on the web to really help drive a positive feeling, as opposed to what we described earlier, as opposed to potentially some pain associated to making a purchase. So those are the three tangible benefits that are a part of the Norton Shopping Guarantee that really map right back to those concerns that consumers have. Lots of customers, from major brands down to smaller brands are currently leveraging the Norton Shopping Guarantee, and hundreds of them are really wanting to make sure that they can quantify the ROI. And so that's one of the reasons that we help enable these merchants to test and make sure that this is going to be an ROI positive investment for those merchants. And of those hundreds tested, the average conversion lift has been greater than 7%. We've also seen a lift in average order value go up a couple percentage points, as well as an increase in repeat buyers. And we've actually been able to map right back to the low price guarantee, which is why the consumers are often coming back to the site. And I think you merchants will like that benefit, because Symantec is actually covering the cost. So if a consumer buys something from you today for $100 and you lower your price to $50, they make a claim with us, and we'll refund them the difference. So you don't have the cost of customer service or the financial reimbursement. So you should definitely promote this fact loud and proud throughout the website. But just to recap here again, hundreds of merchants all seeing greater than a 7% relative lift in conversion rate. What's really important here is we wanted to make it simple for online retailers to get started. We know that all of you have either a development shop or a third-party development shop that has a development queue that potentially could take years to complete. And so we wanted to make sure is to remove the friction of trial. And what we do is we basically conduct a proof of concept, which is free. We'll conduct an A/B test, and it's built right into the product for those of you that don't have your own A/B testing solution or your own tag management systems. We can actually conduct those tests for you for free, and of course provide full visibility of both the qualitative and the quantitative results of the Norton Shopping Guarantee offering. And then our hope is after we present the results, is that you decide to become a Norton Shopping Guarantee customer, and that you just get to enjoy increased sales and a much happier customer base, and customers that are more willing to come back and see you and say wonderful things about you in social media. I know we were talking about saving some of the questions to the end, but I've seen a couple questions, Don, come across that are pretty relevant for the next portion of the presentation.
Okay, let me ask a couple of these questions. Shane, how easy is Norton Shopping Guarantee to install, and what are you testing during the free trial?
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the top questions we get, because we know resources are scarce, and that we know that things that are in the development queue are typically prioritized by a couple key things. What's the level of effort, and then what's that ROI? And so to install Norton Shopping Guarantee, it is really quite simple. And I'm sure all of you have heard this before, but this is one time that when you hear it, it's absolutely true. There's a series of graphical elements that here's just a couple examples. So that it's fully customizable, almost infinite number of variations. But there's a few steps to installing. There's a block of JavaScript to install a persistent seal. There's a couple HTML span tags that are placed throughout the buying experience to really reinforce the tangible benefits that you're providing to your consumers backed by a trusted third party. So you want to be able to leverage those. And then there's an additional block of JavaScript installed on the order confirmation page. Don, the feedback we get from our merchant customers is that the average development time is around an hour. We are agnostic as it relates to platform, whether you have a homegrown platform or you're using some of the well-known platforms that are out there in the industry. So I think that answers the question on the how to install it. And as far as how do we quantify the ROI? Don't need to put this eye chart in front of you, but this is basically an ROI calculator. And really what we're doing is once you start the test, we want to conduct an A/B test in using best practices, which means we want to divide your traffic up into two equal buckets, and we want to make sure that we lock those users into an experience. And this is really important because users often will take more than a single session to make a purchase. And so if they visit your site today and they see an experience, you really want to make sure that the next time they come back, they get the same experience. And so we work with the merchants to make sure that they're able to effectively lock in these two experiences, one that has the Norton Shopping Guarantee and the other experience that doesn't. And then you want to conduct a test that sees enough transactions so that you can achieve what's called statistical confidence, so that when you are looking at the results, you know with absolute certainty what the impact is on your business. So for those of you that love to go by the numbers, this calculator is kind of showing a retailer that's doing $500,000 a month in sales, and that if they get a 7.4% lift in conversion, that's an incremental increase of almost $40,000 or almost $500,000 a year in incremental sales. And Symantec, again, is only asking for a very, very, very small percentage of that incremental lift. And at the bottom line, at the bottom, it says a 20x ROI guaranteed equals happier bosses. The good news is that the average return on investment today has been for $1 invested in the Norton Shopping Guarantee, our merchants are getting $28 back in top-line revenue. So imagine if that was a slot machine. How many times would you pull that one-armed bandit if you could put $1 in a slot machine, and every time you pulled it, you get $28 back? Most of our merchants say that they would get tendonitis or slot machine elbow or something like that.
The next question, I think you've kind of addressed it, is how much it costs and how do you guarantee an ROI? Is there anything else you'd like to add about that?
Yeah, happy to drill a little bit more into the cost. I'll tell you that the maximum cost anybody will ever pay for Norton Shopping Guarantee is 0.25% of sales, or for those of you that know this, 25 basis points. And so what that means, to get a 20x ROI, it's simple math. As long as we see an incremental increase of 5% lift in conversion, we know that we're delivering a 20x ROI to the consumer or to the merchant.
Okay. Well, why don't we hold the rest of the questions? You go on with the rest of the presentation, and we'll take them at the end.
Well, great. No, I appreciate that. There are two great questions there, and again, as Don framed up from the beginning, if you have additional questions, definitely put those in the chat panel, and we'll make sure and address those. We've left quite a bit of time at the end of the presentation for those questions, so don't hesitate to make sure and get all those good questions out there. Okay, so moving on. So, one of the things that we've talked about, didn't see a question on this yet, but this might answer some of your questions at the end. What is the qualitative evidence that we provide? We have an optional feature that is basically a survey mechanism that can come a part of the certificate of guarantee that is issued on the order confirmation page. Most of our merchants like to use this during the testing period because they really want to know, did this free guarantee help my consumers feel more confident? And also, does it make the consumers more likely to come back again? So, in other words, more purchases and a higher probability of coming back. And the results that we're seeing is a plus 80% of consumers, when asked, after being presented the guarantee, say yes to both of these questions. So we're quite confident your consumers would also really appreciate these benefits. The additional mechanism that we have for getting the qualitative evidence is that there's a couple different places on the order confirmation email that a consumer can send their feedback via email. I'm not going to read these back to you, but the highlights are, about 2% of your buyers, if you provide them the Norton Shopping Guarantee, about 2% of your buyers are actually going to send you a thank you email. Some of them are going to be brief, like thank you for this amazing service, and some of them are going to tell you their life story about their experience with identity theft and the pains of it, and how they really appreciate you as a merchant for going above and beyond what they typically see to really help consumers feel really safe and secure when providing an online shopping experience. So good qualitative and quantitative evidence will be provided to every company who tests the solution prior to ever having to make a buying decision. And so, of course, our desire here, I'll be transparent. Our desire here at Symantec is that we would love to have all of you become a part of the Norton community. And what does that mean about being a part of the Norton community? Is we really think about it as a community. And first, the first part of that community is really what Symantec has been doing from a security perspective. Hundreds of thousands of customers, a brand that is seen billions of times a day. All of that is causing the Symantec and Norton brand to become synonymous with trust and security. We want to allow that benefit of these efforts to build this brand and allow you to benefit from having that third party really stand behind you and signal to all these buyers that this is a really safe and secure place to shop. Additionally, Symantec, through our antivirus solutions, have millions of security-conscious buyers that are shopping the Internet every day. And as a Symantec customer, for those buyers, when they are beginning their journey to find out, whether they want to buy that blue chair or a red pair of shoes or green dress, when they search, they are going to see signaling with those results that are going to identify you as somebody who has gone above and beyond to provide both a secured and guaranteed shopping experience. And then, of course, there's hundreds and thousands of online retailers who are using the Symantec branded products. And so that's what we mean by that community that really Symantec and Norton has built. And again, we want to make sure that you get the maximum benefit and really take advantage of every visitor to your site so that, again, you survive that human comparison shopping engine. And as stated a few minutes ago, one of the things we wanted to make sure and do here is leave plenty of time for any additional questions that you may have. And so if we can toss this back over to Don. Don, have you found a few more questions here that we should dive right into?
Okay, we do. So here's one question, a very specific one. Can we buy this tool in Mexico?
Great question. For all of Symantec's SSL products, yes. The Norton Shopping Guarantee was initially rolled out kind of as an invitation only to a select number of Symantec customers. Of course, we wanted to make sure and prove to ourselves, first and foremost, and then prove to the community that we built a winner here. Now that we've done so, it is available currently in the U.S. The next in our roadmap is to provide this solution for Canada and UK, which are English-speaking. The rest of the international roadmap is going to be a little bit driven by demand. And so for the company or for whoever's asked the question about Mexico, we'd love to learn a little bit more about your business and then take a deep dive on when we might be able to get a Spanish version of this offering. But I anticipate that that's going to be a fast follow for UK. So if you're only serving the markets in Mexico, hang tight. We know that there's a lot of buyer anxiety there as well as worldwide. This is not a U.S.-centric issue. So our goal here is to make it ubiquitous, and the only way to do that is to provide that on a global basis. So hang in there. I wish I could say yes today, but I want to make sure and set expectations properly there.
Okay, well, Alberto has left his email address, so you can follow up with him afterwards.
Alberto, thank you for the question.
Next question is, how many websites are currently using the Norton Shopping Guarantee?
Great. This count is going to have to be as of day before yesterday, and I'm quite certain since that time we've added a few more. But it's more than 400 sites have become Norton Shopping Guarantee customers, and that is really starting to accelerate now that we've made the offering generally available to any U.S.-based merchants. So looking forward to hitting the 500 mark here, hopefully by the end of next month.
Okay. So is this solution only intended for small brands that don't have a big name?
This is intuitively, you'd almost think, well, maybe it is. But if you really think about it more deeply, there's a different answer. It has nothing to do with the brand, has nothing to do with the website. What we're dealing with is with human behavior. And a consumer is equally as concerned when making a first-time purchase, whether that's from a GNC.com, which is one of the largest nutraceutical companies in the world, all the way down to somebody who's a brand that you don't recognize. And so what we have found is that no matter how big the brand, that when they incorporate these tangible benefits, it really is addressing some buyer concerns that really need to be addressed so that even the biggest of merchants that we've tested are all getting a minimum of a 20x ROI. And one of the other things that's really important to note that the consumers today are starting to realize that it's actually safer. It's actually safer to shop at a small site than it is a big site. And the primary reason for that is because the hackers are lazy. The hackers are going after the big databases. And so if you're a big merchant out there, unfortunately, you are more likely to be targeted than your smaller competitors. And consumers are just wanting to know that if they take that risk that you've got their back, and that if something happens with you, that there's a third party that's also going to provide that additional layer of resolution and a suite of tangible benefits that are really specifically mapped back to their concerns. Great question, though. We get that one a lot.
Okay, here's a question from Phil. How do you reduce the extra work involved with this for my customers?
Reduce the extra work. Oh, perfect. Your customer doesn't have to do anything, which is beautiful, right? As a merchant, by providing the Norton Shopping Guarantee, it is free to all of your buyers. They don't have to register to get these benefits. The only time that they would take any sort of an action is in the event that they need to file a claim. So if they feel that their identity has been compromised, they just make a claim with Symantec, and then we've got their back from there. If they go to your site and they see that the price has been lowered, they can give us a call. We'll refund the consumer and make that experience for them very quick, very easy, and very brand reinforcing for you as a merchant, because we really reinforce every buyer that calls in with a dispute. We always start off with ABC.com is a great company, and they've really gone above and beyond by providing this suite of guarantees to you for free. And I understand you're making a price claim. Great, here's your refund. Or we understand that maybe you're having a dispute, and we can step in and very easily resolve those without creating any additional work. What we find is that typically when you get to the third guarantee, which is the merchant reliability guarantee, it has nothing to do with the merchant. It's usually a customer service rep that might be having a bad day, that didn't treat the customer as well as they wanted to be treated, and that consumer just wants to have the opportunity to say, hey, I didn't get my issue resolved. Can you step in and help? But for the most part, any buyer dispute, the first thing we always ask is that, have you contacted the merchant? If they haven't, we redirect them back to your merchant customer service, and those issues are typically resolved on the spot. So again, no registrations required for your users to get the free benefits. They only need to give us a call in the event that in the unlikely event that they have a dispute.
Okay, next question. Do you have any business-to-business sites, those that sell to businesses rather than consumers, signing up for this program?
It's funny, we do. One of the things that we initially assumed, again, the benefit of assumptions, right, is that we assumed that it was really going to be best for B2C. But what we have found in testing actual B2B sites is that we are seeing conversion lifts that are equal to, if not greater than, what we're seeing on B2C. Because even B2B buyers have choice about where they're going to buy those solutions. And if you're selling those solutions online, that B2B buyer is still a consumer who's concerned about getting a good price, still concerned about information security, and still concerned about you as a service provider providing a great service. And so, yes, B2B is also something we have found works very well.
Okay. What is the difference between Norton Shopping Guarantee and SSL?
Another good question. And so one of the ways to think about it is the diagram I showed earlier that showed how consumers like to prevent bad things from happening, but they want to have a suite of resolution solutions. It's the driver's ed versus the insurance. It's the peanut butter versus the chocolate, which is what we like to say here internally. But for those of you with a more sophisticated palate, it's the nice medium rare filet mignon and the magically delicious Cabernet Sauvignon that's going along with that. So they're highly complementary to each other, and so Symantec is really the only CA, certificate authority, that is so confident in its security layer and its ability to validate organizations that we're willing to back up that security layer with a suite of guarantees that really resonates with the consumer. So you can't have one without the other. It's two great tastes that taste great together, and a whole bunch of other marketing slang that not sure I have the rights to use. But so hopefully that answers the question about the difference between SSL and a guaranteed shopping experience.
Okay, Shane. Well, we're out of questions. Would you like anything final remarks before we wrap up?
Yeah, I encourage for those of you that may have some burning questions or would like to take a bit of a deeper dive into this and really think more about how it specifically could apply to you. Maybe how would this be presented on your site? Because what we like to do is we like to treat each one of our prospective customers very uniquely, because we understand that you have a web presence and your brand is the most important thing. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to come alongside your brand, your go-to-market strategy, and really work with you on how best to leverage this suite of benefits and to place that throughout the buying experience so that you're really maximizing conversion. I know all of you out there are spending a lot of money to make sure that people are getting to your site, and what we really want to help you do is survive that new buyer behavior of that human comparison shopping engine to make sure that you are providing the most important elements to provide to really maximize confidence. Because one of the things we say all the time is that trust builds confidence, and that confidence drives conversion. And so let us help you address those concerns your buyers have and do it in such a way that is really brand building for you and really helping you grow your business, because we think that there is a phenomenal opportunity for companies like yours that are not the Amazons, that are not the eBays, to start to take market share back from those large conglomerates and to build those small and medium-sized and large businesses that are really trying to have a direct-to-consumer relationship, because we know your margins are thinner when they're shopping in the marketplaces. And so providing these types of solutions is going to help you better compete against the Amazons and your other competitors in the world. So in closing, I just want to thank everybody for their time, and our contact information is here. Either give us a call or feel free to send an email and ask for a consultation or an installation discussion, and we would be happy to follow up.
Okay. Well, thanks to you, Shane Lundy, a Strategic Security Advisor at Symantec. Remember that you all get an email with a link to today's presentation if you want to share it with colleagues, as well as a two-page summary of Shane's remarks, and which is also easy to share with your colleagues. Thank you all for attending and for your participation, and have a great day.
Thank you.